Deconverted Man here. Common sense. I hate this term and this concept, and it just, I just hate it. There's no such thing as common sense. Let me lay that out on the table. Now, I have to backtrack and say, well, what's common sense? That's okay. Well, the very fact that I have to define it is already a problem, because everybody should know what common sense is. It's just common sense to know what the words common sense mean. And I guess everybody might have a slightly different definition of it than I do, or somebody else. So what is it? Well, it's not a sense in the sense of seeing or feeling stuff. It's something that people know. So it's already mislabeled. So it's a common understanding then? Well, what makes it common? How do we know that it's common? Because that suggests some sort of bell curve of knowledge. So in order to say that something is commonly known, we need some sort of thing that showed us that that thing was commonly known. You know, like say we could say 1 + 1 is 2. There's a pretty common knowledge that it would seem very few to no people would not know as long as they had basic education, right? But could you go somewhere in the world and find somebody that didn't know it? Sure, you could. So is the commonness within a certain region, like your little town or your city or your nation or your country, whatever, the world? How localized is it to be common? Because it's like, okay, if I'm gonna just isolate it to me and say it's common sense that reductio ad absurdum means an appeal to reduce something to ridiculous nature. Well, it's common to me. I'm the only one here. So there you go. It's common sense. But I'm the only one that knows it. So if I go out and I say, what's reductio ad absurdum? I don't think that my neighbors are going to know what the bleep that is. Maybe they will. But I don't know that they know or don't know unless I do that research. So when you say whatever the phrase is, whatever the thing is, and say that's common sense, you don't know that. You have no idea that that's true unless you've taken some sort of poll or you looked at some sort of data that said, whatever X% of humans know that this thing is the case. So whatever that would be for 1 + 1 is 2. Whatever that is. Let's say, somewhere around 80, to throw out a number, 80%. It's an appeal to meaningless statistics, because I don't know the statistic, and you probably don't either. So, then we could say, if we had that and said, okay, here's that, then I could say, okay, there, that's common knowledge. Although, again, now we're not calling it common sense, because I think that's a stupid way to phrase it. But if we want to call it common sense, okay, it's common sense. Everyone knows 1 + 1. So, no, you couldn't say that. You could say the majority of people know that 1 + 1 is 2. Or you wouldn't even need to say that because it's implied with the phrase of common sense that this is something well known, and you'd have to be in a very marginalized fraction of people to not know it. Great, fine. But you don't have that. And most people don't have that for the things that they say are common sense. So you might have a farmer that's like, well, you don't go up to a horse and go, woo! That's just common sense. Well, no, it's not. It might be sensible within the confines of this localized area because a lot of people are around horses, raised around horses. They know what to do and not to do, how to act and not act around them. But for the city folk, they don't know. They gotta be told that. Cause why would you walk up to a horse and go boo? I mean, come on, that's just common sense not to do. No, it's not. They didn't know. They were, yes, it's stupid, but they didn't know that it was stupid. Okay? And if you go, if you go to, say a business meeting, and, you have, a t-shirt on, and you've never been to a business meeting before, everybody might be like looking at you like, why aren't you wearing a business suit? It's just common sense to wear one. How would you know? If you've never been to a business meeting, you don't know that people in business wear suits for whatever reason. Maybe you just don't know that. So it's not something that you know. So are you part of the fraction of people that don't know this? How common is that knowledge? And that would be another part of this questioning that I would have, is how many people need to know it for it to be common? What's that degree going to be? Is it more than 50% of people? And again, how big is that going to be? Is that going to be worldwide, or is it just going to be localized to a certain area that you happen to be in? So if we're in the rural area where people are ranchers, then whatever is known there is then common to that area, and so you would say, well, going up to a horse and say boo is common sense in that localized area. But if we took the entire America as a whole, then it no longer is common sense, because not everyone knows that. In fact, fewer and fewer people know it as you go out. And then if you took the world, then it might be very low amount of people, so it's not common. So you have to decide all of these things, and none of it's written down and none of it's decided. Nowhere is it stated within the definition of common sense what that percentage of people is. So if the dang words are not defined, then the dang thing doesn't really exist, does it? It's a concept. It's a concept that is constructed, and the words are used to convey a message. And the message is not that this is well known, but rather the message is you're dumb because you did something that you should have known better to do. But of course, then that's assuming that you knew better than to do that, and if you did know that, then you wouldn't have done it. It's common sense not to walk in front of a train. Well, not if you've never seen a train before. Might not be. If you have no idea what a train is, you don't know what it is, you're just like, oh, that thing's coming straight at me, that's interesting. And all your experience has been when something comes at you that it veers away, that it doesn't, keep going because it doesn't want to get hit by you. That might be what you're basing your thing on. Now, you're probably not going to survive because of it, but somebody pushes you out of the way and say, well, that was just common sense not to stand in front of a train. And you could be getting up and be like, I thought it was going to move out of my way. I didn't think it was going to hit me because I've never seen one before. So you didn't know better because you didn't know better. So the other person, in order to say it's just common sense X, in this case, has to know your mind. Which they don't, and they can't. So even in that definition of common sense, it's not a thing because it's now committing logical fallacies of mind reading. Everyone just knows that. How do you know that? How do you know that everyone knows that? You don't. And people get irritated and upset when you say, look, there's no such thing as common sense. There is not some knowledge that you can really say is common, unless you have that chart, which you don't. You don't have that. The best you could do is say, well, maybe 1 plus 1. You know, that's like, okay, that's almost like worldwide. Almost. So, okay, yeah, we could say that, hypothetically. We don't have a chart to prove it, but I could believe it without much effort. I can believe that. Now, what else? What else is common in the world, like, that people would know? Don't talk while eating, you know. Yeah, maybe, you know. But you'd have things that you could absolutely say, sure, these things. But then the more nuance and the more specific it would be, then the less and less people are going to know it. So here's my say on this statement when somebody says common sense, and I say, no, there's no such thing as common sense, and they go, no, there's not. And I think we shouldn't use it, because basically, if you want to just call someone dumb, just call them dumb. If you want to say that the thing that they did is dumb, then just say that. Or if you want to say that the thing that you just expressed is well known, then I think everybody knows that 1 plus 1 is 2. I mean, come on, who doesn't know that? Fine, but let's just get rid of common sense, because it doesn't exist and I hate it. I hate it. So that's my rant for the day. Thanks for watching. And be sure to like and subscribe and comment on this video. Doing that is just comment.